North American Valorant is extremely cutthroat. There are so many incredible players these days that breaking into the scene and becoming a pro seems almost impossible. And yet, there are so many aspiring pros that it can be really hard for teams to sort through all of them and find the next generation of superstars. But when it comes to top-tier scouting, there is no better place to look than the 2023 Valorant World Champions, Evil Geniuses. They've developed a system that combines data with subjective analysis to give players a literal score that measures how good they are at Valorant. So how are EG using data and AI to discover the next generation of Valorant pros? Can you actually put a number on greatness? And what does it mean for Valorant if EG's methods actually work?
Maybe it's Demon 1! He's got the knives out! A 2v2, Alpha and Chronicle, to try and get Fnatic across the line.
Oh
Demon
my god!
1! He's trying to save them, but it's Alpha up against Demon now. Oh my god!
Alright, so last year, Evil Geniuses went on the most insane Cinderella run that Valorant esports has ever seen. They went from a laughingstock, getting 13-0'd in VCT Americas, to winning a world championship all within the span of only 4 months. And one of the biggest reasons for their remarkable turnaround was Potter's decision to sub in a kid that literally no one had ever heard of, Demon 1. Now, at the time, it seemed batshit crazy. What the community didn't know is that Potter and EG had already subjected Demon 1 to a series of rigorous tests. So where did it all begin? Well, it all started when Valens, a Counter-Strike major winning coach, joined Evil Geniuses as their head of data science back in 2019. We've covered Valens' historic run with C9 plenty of times on our channel, so check out our offbeat to hear why he ditched a job at Tesla to pursue a career in esports. But when he joined EG, it was the perfect fit.
So when I joined EG, this was late 2019. I was still at Cloud9 right before that. And we were kind of deciding what to do with the data science in esports division. So I had a lot of chats with Cloud9. I also chatted with a few different organizations, EG being one of them. And I was the most blown away with what EG was doing. I mean, our tech partners, obviously right now we have HPE. I think that's one of the things that set it apart. My two passion areas have always been esports and data science engineering. So getting to meld the two, it was a no-brainer.
Valens' role at EG has changed over the years. He was their director of athletics, and now he's their head of gaming, but he's always been looking for ways to improve the organization's data analysis. And that's where HPE offered a potential solution.
HPE was one of the first early users of AI and data, and I'm still pretty confident to say this, that HPE was one of the first in the esports division to take AI and data to that level.
Over the past couple of years, EG has worked with HPE to host the HPE Futures Combine, an event where they fly in some of the best up-and-coming prospects to their facility in hopes of finding the next big stars in League of Legends and Valorant. But how do they use data to discover a player like Demon 1? Surely they don't just load up VLR and check out his ACS. There's so many different aspects to a player's game beyond just kills and deaths. The three main tools that EG use are the compatibility analysis tool, the skill analysis tool, and the communication effectiveness tool. The compatibility analysis tool measures how well a player fits within a team's current desired system. Valorant is, of course, a team game, so making sure that all 5 players are on the same page and working together strategically is key. Then, the skill analysis tool looks at their actual gameplay a bit more and how they as an individual can enhance and complement a team composition. And lastly, the communication effectiveness tool obviously factors in how well a player communicates with their team during a match. Understandably, EG keeps how those tools actually work a secret, but they also factor in Potter and EG's assistant coach Foe's feedback when they rank each player with a rating. Most participants who make it towards the end of their combines have an EG rating between 6.29 and 11.51. But to put things into perspective and to show just how much Demon 1 stood out last year, his equivalent rating would be 12.52 if they applied their new formula to his tests from last year.
He would know when to advance, when to calm down, and when to really strike hard. Holistically, this is the player who is not only focusing on his own moves, but is also planning his his moves or next moves basis potential move of his opponent.
Demon 1 was very fresh. So even small things like just ripping your ult, your knives, to secure the round was something that was kind of foreign to him when he joined the team, because in ranked, you don't do that. So in scrims, the one moment he had an op, I'm like, you have knives, rip your knives. And he did it and he just gets an ace instantly. Yeah, in that moment I knew we don't need to overcook with this kid. He just needs to know where he needs to get, where he's gonna get all these kills. And cause he wants the ace so badly, he's just gonna figure it out on his own.
Alongside HPE, EG have come up with a formula that can accurately represent a player's strengths. But what could that spell for future scouting in Valorant or even esports as a whole? Well, for that, there's probably a lot of numbers. So here's Colten.
And now, the guy who actually knows what he's talking about.
As many of you are already aware, I love using technology to analyze stats, and what EG and HPE are doing to find future superstars like Demon 1 is really ahead of the curve in esports. For a long time, in most games, racking up kills, hitting a certain rank, or impressing a coach or fellow pro was often enough to earn you a spot on a top roster. And to be fair, that's all still pretty important. But there are just so many ways that teams can work together to find success, especially in a game like Valorant where the meta is constantly evolving. At the highest level, everyone can shoot their gun, so teams need to look at other metrics. Agent diversity is a huge part of the game. Having players who are capable of filling different roles or different playstyles is basically essential if you want to win. For example, while most people would agree that Demon 1 was the best player in the world last year, they would also agree that a player like Jogamo is the reason he's able to shine.
And I told him, and I tell everyone, last year everyone looks at Demon 1, but Jaw is the MVP of that tournament and for us. And any of his old teammates from last year will tell you the same thing. Yeah, he's just an incredible player, so I needed to be able to make sure he has the pieces to keep making his movies.
But there's a lot of data out there to sift through, even for multiple coaches. By using AI to analyze their wealth of player data, EG have found a way to accurately measure more aspects of a player's game to calculate one easy-to-understand rating. So how does an AI determine what a good Valorant player is? Well, obviously EG aren't going to give up the secret sauce, but at the end of the day, it boils down to a model built with lots and lots of training data. But a model is only as good as the data used to make it. And thankfully, esports is full of easily accessible data.
What advantage does esports have? It's the level of data. It's just insane. I don't think people comprehend how much better and how easier it is to get hold of esports related data or gaming related data compared to either finance, or in a better comparison would be traditional sports.
With that wealth of data at their fingertips, EG, and everyone else for that matter, is only going to get better at finding and developing future talent. Hell, I'm already using AI to help me draft better and rank up in my Iron League of Legends games. Who knows where AI coaching and analysis will be even in the next few years? And we're getting to the point where esports scouting isn't all that different from traditional sports. Considering just how competitive things are at the highest level of Valorant and esports as a whole, I'm interested to see whether or not EG and HPE's methods are adopted by more teams to find future superstars.
And that was the guy who actually knows what he's talking about.
EG's scouting methods have shown that hosting these events and using this data can lead to success. But we wanted to see what it looked like firsthand. So, just a couple of months ago, they invited us to the latest HPE Futures Combine so we could see all the action for ourselves. After months of tryouts, they announced the 5 players who would be attending the final stage of the Combine. 5 players with varying levels of experience. 7-time Game Changers champion Katsumi, who stepped away from the GC scene back in October to focus on improving individually and qualifying for challengers on a co-ed team.
I want to win champions. That's, I think, everyone's goal. But realistically, I try to keep all of my goals improvement based rather than team or accomplishment based. But I just most importantly want to feel like I'm at the level of a player who could be in franchising.
Then there was Ali, who had been hovering around the tier 2 and collegiate scene, even subbing in for Winthrop University during the mid-season cup. This was Ali's second combine.
It's tough getting into the Challengers League. But I do think that if I'm able to solidify myself in the Challengers League, I I 100% believe that I can make it through Ascension and make it to become a VCT franchise team.
Next is Son of Car, a duelist player who made a name for himself in Challengers qualifiers earlier this year when he dropped a 40 bomb on Chamber against the Glazers.
I mean, there's always pressure, but pressure's kind of just like, it's kind of a privilege to have it. Good opportunity.
Lear was one of the more experienced players in the Combine, having played for teams like Andbox and OR Esports in Challengers last year, and he's participated in past HPE Future Combines before.
I always love meeting new people too, so if I can gain any new connection and, gain knowledge with the game, I'll have benefit through that.
And lastly, there's Truth, a Valorant collegiate player.
I think the most clear goal in mine is just to be the best player that I can possibly be.
All 5 players traveled to California to play against EG's main roster with hopes of making an impression on Potter and Foe.
So I'm here this week to scout out some potential talent for a drill team for myself. Last year we had the reserve roster all year long, and it was quite a challenge figuring out in the beginning of the year how to get use out of all the tools that we had last year. For me, I'm here to look at potentially undiscovered talent, what the skill ceilings are of these players, and to see if I can make myself a drill team.
I'm just interested in seeing, how much they can grow in a very short period of time, what the things that they already know, how much they've already learned, and also just getting an idea of what they seem like as teammates, how they operate, and just kind of getting some insight into what it is that makes them, have that drive, why they have that drive. There's a lot of different things, but really what it is for me is just coming to understand the players themselves and just seeing what I see for them in the future, what they see for themselves in the future.
Despite not having played together before, all 5 Combine players jumped into the server to get a taste of what it's like to play against a VCT caliber roster in a best-of-3 scenario. And they honestly held their own. With Lear leading the charge, they kept things extremely close and even led for parts of the series. But over in the other room, Potter and EG's experience proved to be the difference. Plus, Jogamo was feeling himself, so they closed it out.
He dropped like 37 kills one map or something crazy. Yeah, he kind of popped off.
I thought it was fun. It was nice playing versus him, opping versus him. He got in front of our Yuto a lot and it's hard to deal with.
Yeah, I don't want to leak obviously, but they did run some crazy comps that, I was honestly a fan of.
Well, fortunately, Lear is a really good IGL, so it was pretty easy for us to kind of zone in. Initially, it's pretty difficult since there's a lot of different players, a lot of different play styles, trying to figure it out. But it ended up going fairly well.
We were still able to play our own game, and we were able to get more than a couple rounds off them, right? With the scores being a lot closer than we imagined. So I like to say that we did a really good job.
And it wasn't just the Combine players who were impressed by their opponents. EG's main roster saw a lot of potential over on the other side of the server.
Yeah, Son of Car, we've known him, I know of him for the past few months, and I've seen a couple of his clips. I got to see that in action today, so yeah, he's very dual heavy, and the way he uses the sniper scopes and guns like that, he's kind of nice with it. I haven't seen that from a lot of people recently.
All of them are very talented, right? I think there's a few that stood out was definitely Ali and Son of Car, right? Those are in my opinion, the up and coming tier 2 players. I think they perform very well under pressure. You know what I mean? Coming out all the way out here and playing, against a franchise team, right?
The little things that we can talk about between maps of how they can sort of structure their gameplay so that they're able to take advantage of their identity as players. That's the really important part. And they were able to do that going into the 2nd and 3rd map, and they kept everything really close, it was good.
The players were able to compete against a VCT level team and receive feedback from the best Valorant coach in the world. Not many people can say that. EG anonymized the numbers, so we don't know who exactly they were most impressed with, but this was a rare look into what might just be the most advanced scouting process in esports.
It's a very important time for Valorant, especially as a person coming from Counter-Strike, where a lot of our talent kind of disappeared overnight in NA, people kind of giving up on the esport. I think while the momentum is highest right now in its early years of Valorant, it's important to have some sort of ladder or some sort of way for players to stay motivated, to stay hungry, and to keep the eye on the prize, right? And Riot need to do more to make sure that the talent that is in NA, something can be done with it. Because as you say, there's a lot of it. There's a lot of untapped potential, and there's just so much hype still around Valorant.
And if EG do find another Demon 1, You can bet that a lot of other organizations are going to start investing time and resources into coming up with their own data systems and heuristics intent on finding tomorrow's champions today.
Thanks for watching. If you want more content like this, hit the sub button and ring that notification bell. For unique bite-sized videos you won't find anywhere else, hit up our Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook pages.